Teenage Cannibals, a legendary director's unexpected flop, these are the gruesome movies many viewers walked out on before the credits could roll. The Blair Witch Project is known for many things: a terrifying atmosphere, a horrifying sense of dread, and an incredibly effective viral marketing campaign are just a few of its claims to fame. However, the film made waves in another way during the days of its initial theatrical run. Some moviegoers were so physically affected by the film's camera work that they ended up vomiting in the aisles before walking out of the theater and requesting refunds. It's even been reported that ushers at some theaters in Toronto requested that audience members prone to motion sickness sit in the aisle seats. It makes sense that people with sensitivity to motion would have an issue with the Blair Witch Project. That's entirely separate from the actual terror depicted on screen. One of the film's defining characteristics is its shaky camera work. After all, it follows a group of film students who let their project fall to the wayside when faced with a killer presence in the woods. It's realistic to a fault, and extremely uncomfortable to watch once things really get moving.
I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them.
The vomitous response to the Blair Witch Project is pretty understandable. Not everyone can handle a shaky screen, especially not one as large as the movie theaters. Some other found footage movies like the alien invasion thriller Cloverfield have also prompted similar reactions. Grindhouse was something of a gift for the in-the-know cinephiles in 2007. Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez each wrote and directed a feature film, and both were set to play together in wide release as a singular cinematic experience. But when Rodriguez's Planet Terror and Tarantino's Death Proof hit theaters together under the Grindhouse title, it didn't all go according to plan. Aside from a very specific subset of movie fans, general audiences either didn't care or didn't really understand what Grindhouse was. That all led to pretty disastrous ticket sales for two filmmakers with very solid track records. The project's well-chronicled box office failure probably has something to do with the many walkouts, which were documented by those who did see the movie. Part of the problem was that so many people had zero idea what they were signing up for. For instance, there were many moviegoers who walked out after Planet Terror wrapped up, believing that they were there to watch one movie and only one movie. After having time to reflect, Tarantino told Empire that the world wasn't ready for their vision. He elaborated, "Me and Robert just felt that people had a little more of a concept of the history of double features and exploitation movies." No, they didn't, at all. The numerous tales of walkouts back up Tarantino's own thoughts on the matter. International releases opted to split up the films and release them separately to avoid any further confusion and mitigate further losses. When it comes to contemporary remakes of legendary films, the critical consensus usually leans toward disgruntled eye-rolling. However, with the 2013 reboot of Sam Raimi's 1981 cult classic, The Evil Dead, director Fede Alvarez and his team managed to surpass the original on several impressive fronts. Their vision ended up being gorier, grislier, and far more bleak. Though the film's plot remains essentially the same, 5 20-somethings stay in a remote cabin with a demonic book in their cellar. It boasts more explicit scares and feels closer to something from the new French extremity movement. Evil Dead proved to be so disturbing that during the film's world premiere at South by Southwest, there were reports of numerous audience members scurrying to the lobby out of nausea and disgust. This kind of response is often phenomenal for horror filmmakers, who aim to provoke incredibly visceral reactions from viewers. In fact, Bruce Campbell, who played Ash in the original Evil Dead trilogy and co-produced the 2013 reboot, told Hollywood.com ahead of the film's release, "Hopefully we'll have a few walkouts. That's the sign of a good horror movie."
Groovy.
Director Lars von Trier has not developed a reputation for making feel-good cinema over the years. Instead, the filmmaker has a knack for more challenging, divisive movies. After all, this is the man who made the infamous Depression trilogy, which consists of the incredibly bleak Antichrist, Melancholia, and Nymphomaniac. The House That Jack Built is certainly no exception. In many ways, it's a culmination of all of von Trier's efforts to shock and surprise. The 2018 film, which sees Matt Dillon playing a sexist architect and serial killer who sees his murders as works of art. To many moviegoers, the character was so repugnant that they didn't just walk out, but walked out in vocalized disgust. These reactions all date back to the movie's now infamous screening at the Cannes Film Festival in 2018. Those who were in attendance at the time reported that the screening prompted more than 100 walkouts, a fairly uncommon number for such a major film festival. The news spread pretty quickly at the time and helped build some serious pre-release buzz for the film. This wasn't the only controversy The House That Jack Built would ultimately face either, as distributor IFC Films got in trouble with the Motion Picture Association of America over the one-night-only release of the unrated cut. The best and most memorable recipes are simple. The fewer ingredients, the better, whether you're whipping up a meal or shaking up a cocktail. If you were looking for a recipe to make a fully grown adult faint, you'd only need one ingredient: Julia Ducournau's 2016 Cannibal Goes to College film Raw. The French film hit audiences hard when it was screened at the Toronto International Film Festival, leading to an ambulance getting called for at least one moviegoer. Despite the shocking development, the marketing team behind Raw definitely knew how to pivot. They included branded barf bags as swag for at least one critic screening of the film. You do have to hand it to Ducournau. Raw is filled with bloody moments that could easily curdle a stomach filled to the brim with soda and popcorn. After protagonist Justine gets her first taste of raw meat, the once vegetarian veterinarian isn't afraid to get messy during mealtime, nauseating viewers in the process. Raw slots neatly into the cannibal canon alongside classics like Silence of the Lambs and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even if not everyone who bought a ticket made it to the unforgettable final scene. Ducournau's follow-up film, 2021's Titan, also made plenty of people flee the theater thanks to its constantly escalating body horror. Todd Browning's 1932 horror film Freaks was one of the first movies to truly shock audiences. This early fright flick tells the story of a troupe of circus performers, many of whom are physically disabled members of the sideshow. Browning was inspired to create the film after working with the traveling shows himself, and he wanted to give the performers a shot at the silver screen. His aim was to sympathize with them, despite the fact that MGM executives found them disturbing. There are legends abound regarding Freaks, including a test screening where a young woman claimed that watching the film gave her a miscarriage. People were described as running from their seats, terrified by what they were seeing on screen. Freaks came under heavy scrutiny and was even banned in the UK, making it a video nasty before the term was even coined. Despite its initial reception, Freaks is a fantastic film about found family, survival, and empathy. But audiences boiled it all down to basic fears of the other. Given the decades of social and cultural evolution the world has undergone since the release of Freaks, the nature of the film's subject seemed more shocking then than it ever would today.